Hey guys, welcome back to Why It Should Be Rated, where I go through some unrated levels that I'm a fan of and give reasons for what type of rating I think they should get through analysis of the level. Today we got a classic example of a level that's been ignored by Rob for far too long. In this case, it's actually been a massive 9 months since the level's verification and release. And considering that this is coming from a creator who has already gotten multiple rates, 4 of which are demons, including a list-worthy extreme demon, this is probably one of the most ridiculous weights we've ever seen from a rating from Rob. That's right, today we're talking about 1945 by Lfritz, a low-end extreme demon verified by Colorbold that has still not been rated despite receiving many sends at different times. It's not like these sends are undeserved either. This level exhibits what Lfritz considers the peak of his creating in this style, at least in terms of his unrated levels. I've never seen this sort of rainbow effect / design style being done before Lfritz developed it, and I think this is the main reason that the level has received the number of sends that it has. It's impressive enough to create your own style, but when it's as unique as this, it becomes even more so. However, because of how unique the style is, and because of how undeveloped it is by anyone except the big guy himself, it isn't flawless. Before we get onto the problems with it though, I'd like to go through some of the positives that makes Fritz's levels noteworthy in my opinion. The first aspect I want to discuss is the use of non-blending glow. I distinctly remember Fritz actually not knowing what blending was until he reached the end of the level, which is why you only see it used in the last 20% or so, and not anywhere before. It's pretty surprising that he's both a heavy glow user and has gained CP without knowing what blending does, but he still managed to make some decent looking stuff without it. One of my personal favourites is this effect at the 54 ship. Fritz uses these rainbow borders a lot, maybe even too much, but here they're used with other objects to create an interesting overlapping effect that works well with the reverb on the song and the slow gameplay. Despite the overlays, the gameplay remains pretty clear throughout. I'm going to talk more about the gameplay later because it's another highlight of Fritz's style. For now, I'll just say that it's generally pretty clear what you're supposed to do, which makes learning it a whole lot more enjoyable. The rainbow colour scheme is something you commonly see playing through Fritz's levels, and I'm fairly undecided as to whether I like it or not. Over the months, Fritz has definitely improved the aesthetic, and I think In Rainbows or Home 47 are probably the best levels to implement that style, and in and of itself it's certainly unique. However, there's a lot of flaws within the version of the style used within this level. For one, the lack of blending along with most of the decorations being at full opacity makes the level often look quite messy, especially at the drop. I also think there's quite a lot of disparity in the block palette and decoration density. For example in this part, where it goes from fairly detailed blocks to nothing but black in the space of a few seconds. The block designs are also quite simple in general, which isn't always a bad thing when the other aspects make up for it, or if all the elements have the same level of simplicity. However, neither of these things is really true for 1945, meaning that the level often feels unfinished and rushed. Even with these flaws, there's still plenty of people that like the level regardless. I think the reason for this is that the decoration isn't really the main focus of the level, but is rather more like just something pretty for you to look at while you beat it, which is emphasized by the colours not going beyond rainbows, something that is inherently pretty, but also not exactly original for a Geometry Dash level. For me, it's pretty clear that the main focus of this level was the gameplay. Fritz's gameplay is generally at least interesting, and normally very fun. The sync can be amazing, especially in something like In Rainbows, and the gimmick he has of copying certain extreme demon parts into his own gameplay might be questionable in terms of balance, but it's something I've never seen any other creator do. Fritz's gameplay is always extremely satisfying to play through for these reasons, and while 1945 might feel like bashing your head against a brick wall until it breaks for someone who isn't that well versed in extremes, even playing through a practice run, it's easy to see how someone could enjoy it. The sync is pretty good, and in some places, if you don't know what to do, clicking to the melody will get you through a difficult spot. Although I wish there was more of this because the level can't really decide whether to focus on visual or click sync a lot of the time, and as a result feels quite inconsistent in that respect. It's not a massive issue though, as having some sort of sync throughout is good enough. Not only is the gameplay well synced, there's also some unique parts that make the level stick out, such as this long string of orbs in the ball part, these timings at the start, and even little moments like the horizontal portals in this UFO. This also works well with the decoration, which almost seems like graffiti in the way that Fritz has used the level as a canvas for his ideas. Although it means that there's some inconsistencies in the design, as I've already mentioned, it gives some charm to the level and again makes it stick out. One major issue with this design style, in this level in particular, is that it doesn't match well with the song at all, at least for the most part. There's some level of resemblance between the mostly grey structures at the start, and the lyrics with the song, making it somewhat reminiscent of an old TV. But other than that, there's not really much thought about how the colours and design work with the song. Even in this first part, there's still quite a few rainbow colour schemes present, meaning that the old aesthetic is sort of corrupted. And I feel that the transition to the drop would have worked much better if the entire pre-drop had experimented more with this more monochrome style. In general, I don't think the designs fit with the song either. The pre-drop is almost melancholy, and the notes are quite soft at this point. So having this huge rainbow monstrosity swivel its eyes like a stroke victim as you fly past isn't exactly what I would call tonally consistent. The graffiti style also doesn't work that well for the song, which has quite a repetitive melody, unlike the constantly changing decoration. The rainbow colour scheme forms a slight link between the decoration pieces, but even so, the inconsistency in detail and style makes the level feel like a bit of a mess at points. This is one of the reasons why I think Cognition utilises this song better than 1945. Parts are fairly different in style, but the colours are used very well to make all the elements within parts feel like a consistent whole. There's an argument that the downfall of this style is that it has a tendency to be monochrome and repetitive, but I'm willing to sacrifice that if the level matches this to the song. As to whether Cognition is actually a better level than 1945, it's quite difficult to say for sure. While Cognition is certainly much more clean and polished, and I think it does utilise colour better, there's nothing very interesting about it other than the gameplay. On the other hand, 1945 may look like a Bible Belt nightmare, but it's hard to argue that the style isn't at the very least original. Personally, I prize originality above almost everything else, and so if something is original but unpolished, I'm entirely willing to give it a pass because it's trying something new. I talked about this in my Void video, and this is also one of the reasons why Kid Smoke is one of my favourite levels. Although I can't help wishing that Lfritz had developed more of an atmosphere in this level, knowing what a unique atmosphere can do for a level like this. Even though this style of decoration and gameplay is original, there's a point where that doesn't make up for a lack of polish. This level is right on that point for me, a mix of excellent ideas with somewhat lacking execution. While a rate might be more fitting for this type of level, I think it would be pretty mean to say that it only deserves a rate considering how long it's been out and also how many other mods have sent it for feature. Therefore, I'd say this level deserves a feature. When compared to Fritz's epic rated level, it's certainly quite a way off, but it's a solid effort, and the amount of time it's taken to get rated with the number of sends it's got alone should mean that it deserves at least something by now.